Hello and welcome to my reading vlog. Today I am accompanied by my nice stack of books over here. And if these books look familiar, that is because these are the books that I chose when I picked my TBR from my TBR jar. Those are the books that I chose out of my TBR jar that I have not read yet. Now, the good news is that there started with 8 books and now we have 5. So I have read 3 of the books that I chose from the TBR jar, but we still have 5 to go. And it is February 19th, which means that there are 10 days until the end of the month. 10 days to read 5 books. Let's be honest, I'm not going to be able to do that. There's just no actual way that all 5 of these books are being read in 10 days, especially because I refuse to put myself into a reading slump or read something that I don't want to read. So I am not going to force myself to read certain books if I'm really not into it. And also that's just not enough time. Even if I could read that many books in that period of time, I don't think that these are the books that I would choose. But I am going to give a valiant effort to read at least 2 or 3 of them. And I honestly am not 100% sure of where to start with. I'm not 100% sure where to start. So again, here are the books. This could have been a better setup, but we have Payback's a Witch, Their Vicious Games, These Violent Delights, Dead 11, and Project Hail Mary. Now, if I'm being like so for real with myself and everyone else, the book that is least likely to be read is Payback's a Witch. This is a cozy, witchy, magical realism rom-com, and I'm not in the mood for that at all. I'm not really sure why I thought that I would be in the mood for it even at the time when I picked it. But nonetheless, I just realistically know that this one is not going to be read. So we're just going to be upfront with ourselves and make that sacrifice right now and just put her to the side and, you know, we'll try again another time. So then that leaves these 4 books. So here's my thought process on these. For the mood that I'm in right now, I just read Magnolia Park's Into the Dark, and it's really clouding my reading vision because I just know nothing is going to measure up to that right now. So I want to make sure that I give these books a fair shot. And so if I know that I am not in the mood for that genre right now, I'm just going to put it to the side, and not completely for the month, but just as far as the first book that I pick up. So with that being said, I am going to put Dead 11 and Project Hail Mary to the side. This is a horror book. This is a sci-fi book. I know I'm just not in the mood for either of those right now. So I am going to check back in with them after I've read whatever I choose to read now. But that leaves only 2 options, which are These Violent Delights and Their Vicious Games, which are very similar titles. This is a historical fantasy that takes place in Shanghai, and it is the first book in a duology. And this is a YA dark academia thriller about a young woman of color who loses her college scholarship and gets somehow into these like deadly trials in order to get a scholarship or get her college paid for. So I don't know. I think what I might do, oh wow, that's like some really big font. Their Vicious Games has really big font. This is pretty big font too, These Violent Delights. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with Their Vicious Games. This is a standalone book. I think that it'll be a pretty quick and engaging read. It kind of reminds me of one of my favorite books that I've ever read called Ace of Spades, which is a dark academia thriller as well. So I am going to start with this one. If I get a little bit into it and I'm really not feeling it, I'll put it down and let's just see how it goes. I just had someone else's YouTube video going and I didn't even stop it before I pressed record. Look at the naked hardback. That's so cool. But you will never catch me reading without the dust jacket. I don't know. I need it. But I'm about to start this. Let's see what happens. You never know. You never know. So she didn't just lose her scholarship, she lost her admission to Yale. So that's worse. It sucks. So basically this super rich family holds this thing called the finish, and it's 3 tests, and it's all girls who compete, and it says that you are going head to head for the support of the Remington family and all that entails: tuition, influence, power, and admittance. So this is interesting. I can tell that I'm gonna like this. I'm definitely going to keep reading this one, so I will check back when I've read a little bit more. Quick update for the reading vlog. I am 220 pages through this book. It's interesting. So the writing is really good, but the plot is extremely strange. I mean, like, extremely strange. Like, what in the fuck is even going on here? And the only thing that I'll say is, besides that it's strange, which is fine, I'm not really liking any of the characters. Even the main character, Adina, is just not my favorite, and so it's a little bit of a disconnected feeling from the characters, but I do feel connected to the writing and the storytelling, so it is interesting. I would just say, like, this book is it's more of a, like, hyperbole, I think, a more exaggerated, not exaggerated in like a negative way, but a more theatrical kind of representation of issues that really happen and things that really go on. But this is just a very interesting way to tell the story. I don't know, it's just a little weird, but it's good. I'm enjoying my time reading it. I am reading it quickly. The writing makes it fly by. It's just very odd. So that's all I really have to say. I'm gonna keep reading this. It's about to be a rainy afternoon, so I'm going to read some of this book and I will check back upon completion. Hopefully I don't look too pale, but I am here with an update. I finished this book, and I just want to say right off the bat, I saw on Goodreads that the author, Joelle, they had put a review up. They said that this book is satire, which is pretty much what I was trying to get at in my last clip, but I was just doing a absolutely horrible job of explaining. But yes, this is not to be taken completely seriously. This book felt like a fever dream. It was one of those books that there was like no grasp on reality in this book. It was definitely a hyperbole, definitely a satire, and it was just very, very strange. It was an unsettling type of book, that fever dream feeling. Those books are not personally my favorite, but I could appreciate this for what it was. The writing was really, really great. All of the characters were unlikable, and that did make it a little bit difficult to read this at times, but the writing really, really redeemed it. And like I said, I can appreciate this for what it is, but it's just not 100% my taste. So I'm landing on a 3 stars for this book. If the whole like fever dream, weird, speculative fiction vibe is for you, I do recommend this book. But now I'm kind of at a dilemma because I have the remaining 4 books here. Yeah. And the date is February 23rd, which means I have, oh God, don't do this to me. It's a leap year, so that means that there's 29, right? Yes. Including today, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days. But if you're not including today, I have 6. That was a little bit of an over explanation, but basically I have 6.5 days technically complete this February TBR. I already said there's no way I'm going to be reading all 4 of these books, especially now that we only have 6 days left. But I do think that I could at least give 1 or 2 more a try. As I look at these, none of them are 100% the book that I want to jump right into, but they're all books that I want to read. That's why they're on my shelf. That's why they're on my TBR. So it's not that I don't want to read these books. I'm just such a mood reader, and when I'm feeling a specific thing, I'm kind of one-track minded in that way. But because I made the TBR, I really want to try to make an effort to somewhat stick to it. Right now, I'm at a score of 50%, reading 4 out of the 8 books. So I want to at least be above the middle and try to read at least 1, if not 2 more. So the remaining books are as follows. We have Payback's a Witch, Dead 11, Project Hail Mary, and These Violent Delights. So I already said it in the beginning. I am pretty much dead set on not reading this one this month, and I'm just going to automatically put it to the side because I just know for a fact that this is not my choice. Earlier, I was choosing between Their Vicious Games and These Violent Delights. Obviously, you saw which one I picked. And I still am a bit interested in These Violent Delights over the other 2 books. This is a fantasy. It's part of a duology. It's a historical fantasy, and it takes place in 1920s Shanghai. And I think I saw something about this being somewhat of a Romeo and Juliet retelling, and I am in a romance mood. So I think a romantasy could possibly work. I am going to commit to at least reading. Here's the thing about a fantasy book. It does take a little bit longer to get into it, but I do feel like I kind of know at about the 40-page mark if I am going to like a book or if I should just put it down for right now or DNF it completely. So I'm going to commit myself to reading 40 pages of this book, and depending on how that 40 pages goes, I'm going to decide if I'm going to keep reading this right now or move on to something else because I still refuse to put myself in a slump. I'm gonna sit and just try to like binge these first 40 pages so I can get an idea of how I feel, and then I will check back and let you know if I'm gonna continue or not. several reading updates to give. It has been a couple of days, more like 3 or 4 days since I checked in, but I've done things have happened. I know the last time that I was vlogging, I was starting these Violent Delights and I was gonna read 50 pages as a little taste test, see how I liked it, see if I wanted to go ahead and continue reading the book. And that went really well. I read the 50 pages and I was so into it that I didn't even want to like stop and update the vlog. I decided I was going to keep reading it, and now I am on page 100, which is about 20% through the book. It is a Romeo and Juliet retelling. The main girl's name is even Juliet. It's a Romeo and Juliet retelling, but about two rival gang families in Shanghai in the 1920s. And it's really, really good, really, really quick and easy to read and understand. The fantasy element hasn't really come in yet, but I think that it's gonna be about like the kind of the subplot of this is that there's this like mysterious monster or disease or something like terrorizing Shanghai. So that I think is going to be what the fantasy element is. There's no magic or anything, at least so far in this book, but I'm really, really enjoying this. I am definitely going to keep reading it. But the other thing that happened is yesterday I went to my mom's house, and it's about an hour and a half drive, and both on the way there and back, I started listening to Dead 11 on audio, and I'm feeling very, very overly confident right now because I didn't even think that I was going to be able to get to 3 books in this video. And now granted, it is the 27th. So I have to now finish 2 books in 2 days, but I think I can do it. I don't know. I am about 33% through this one. And this is a horror book, very much out of my comfort zone. I don't read horror. I don't think I've read a horror book at all. I was very nervous going into this. I didn't know what to expect. When I started the audiobook, the first chapter, I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to continue with this, but I kept listening and it got really good, and now I am super invested in it, and I kind of just want to listen to this audiobook because it's actually told so well on audio. It starts off and you're following this guy Harper who is trying to figure out what happened to his sister Willow, who's missing, and he realizes that she had last been seen on this island called Clifford Island. It's like a very, very remote island that nobody really knows about, and the island is very, very strange. I know from the back of the book that they are like hyper fixated on the year 1994, but that hasn't really been explicitly stated in the book yet. It's just that things are very unsettling and strange and creepy on this island. You can tell that there are some like strange cult-like tendencies and beliefs and creepy things happening, but the way that it's told is really, really good. You're following multiple points of view. There are transcripts of interviews, there are letters that are being written back and forth, and you're basically just trying to figure out A, what is going on this island, and B, what happened to Willow. And I'm very, very into it so far. Like I said, it's the 27th, but I do think that I have the ability to finish these 2 books, especially because I am 33% through this one and about 20% through this one. Also, my mom made me like 12 new bookmarks so that I have bookmarks that match my books, which I said that I wanted one day, and she delivered. She gave me a bouquet of 12 crocheted bookmarks, and so I have this teal one that goes with Dead 11, and then I have this camouflage one that goes with these Violent Delights, and I have 10 more over there for when I start reading another book. Love them. Love my mom. So that is all as far as my update goes. I feel like I should sit down and read these Violent Delights, but I'm so into Dead 11 that I think I'm gonna just have to listen to Dead 11. Maybe I'll read a little bit of it physically, but I am loving this audiobook so much. It's just that with audiobooks, I really need to be doing something like driving or cleaning or something like that. And I kind of just feel like chilling, but I want to listen to this audiobook. So I don't know exactly what I'm going to do, how this is all gonna go down and work. We'll see how I end up consuming this content. But basically, the race is on right now. I have 2 days to finish these 2 books, and if so, I will have read 6 out of 8 books on my TBR, which is so exciting and better than I thought that I would do. Definitely gonna do a TBR jar video again. I think I'm actually gonna film it today. So that is where I'm at with that. I will check back in when I've read a little bit more of either book and give a little update. So the race is on. Let's get to reading. Here again with another reading vlog update, and this is going so much differently than I anticipated to catch you all up. It's the 29th, so we're on day 0. It's 12 p.m. We have 12 hours to finish, and let me tell you what has happened, because like I said, this has gone differently than I expected. So I told you last clip, I had listened to some of Dead 11 on audio, and then I was reading it physically, and I ended up finishing Dead 11 that night, so 2 days ago. And y'all, I gave this book 5 stars. And no one is more surprised than I am. This is the first horror book I've ever read. Now I will say, I was very nervous going in because I don't do gore, I don't like all of that stuff, so I was very scared that this would be too much for me, and it was not at all. And I think that's why some super horror fans didn't love this so much, but for me, it was perfect. It was the perfect intro into horror, and honestly, I would personally classify this as more of a paranormal thriller, but it was absolutely amazing. This story just completely gripped me and had me totally locked in. I just was flying through this. I love the format. Like I said, you got like text messages, you got articles, you got interviews, and then you also got the multiple points of view, like I was saying. Now, one thing I will say is I don't really recommend reading the inner sleeve or even the blurb on Goodreads, because I do feel like there are some things that I wished that I didn't know going in, and I think that would have made the experience even better. But the fact that I even like knew some stuff going in and this was still as good as it was, like, I just had to give this 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. And the author, Juliano, has had several viral stories on the No Sleep Reddit, which I'm not surprised, because this reminded me of like staying up late and reading scary stories on Reddit, and I just absolutely loved it. And I really want to find some other books that are similar to this. So if you liked this book and there are other books that you think are similar or that I would like, please let me know, because I really want to find more like this. So that was that one. And then I am still working on These Violent Delights. I'm a little over halfway through right now. This is because I got this as a used book. I don't know what this is from, but I'm a little over halfway, and the book is good. There are just some things that are kind of not my favorite. I wish that this was told as a first person dual or multi point of view. You do get multiple points of view, but they're all like in the same chapters. It's not like each point of view gets a separate chapter, and it makes it a little bit hard to follow and confusing, because you're getting the points of view of all of the characters while you're in the scene at the same time. And I really wish that we were just focusing on one and then going into the other one. But I will say that this book is an easy read. I don't find that I'm like checking my phone or stopping when I'm reading this, but also at the same time, when I think about the plot, like not all that much has really happened yet. It is just kind of starting to pick up, and there really is no fantasy to this except for whatever this monster is that I was talking about before. But so far, it's really mainly focusing on the rivalry between these two gangs in Shanghai and how they basically have all of the political influence right now. But the Communist Party is trying to come in and other parties are trying to come in, and basically these gangs are just trying to like maintain power. And then of course, like the Romeo and Juliet aspect is basically the heir of the one gang and the heir of the other gang, and they, like, it's been hinted that they had a previous relationship and they've had some interaction so far, but we have not seen any like romance between them. So I don't know, like, it's definitely not bad. It's just, I do wish the storytelling was a little different, and I do wish that there was a little bit more going on. But like I said, I just about hit the 50% mark, and a lot of times this is usually where these types of books will start to pick up. So I am going to keep reading this. The race is on. Like I said, I have 12 hours to finish this, and I really do think that I am going to be successful. So with that being said, I am going to get to reading, and I will talk to you again when I finish this book. Okay, hi everybody. It is Friday, March 1st. Right before the clock struck midnight, I finished These Violent Delights. What to say about this book? I really liked the idea of the plot. The plot was mainly focused on the politics of Shanghai and these two gangs and the inner workings of that. And in the author's note in the back, Chloe Gong was explaining that this is historically accurate. Obviously, all of the characters are fictional and the gangs are fictional, but they're based off of real gangs and real things that were going on in Shanghai at this time. So that is really, really cool, and I enjoyed learning about those things. I just was not the biggest fan of the storytelling of this book. It was third person, and there were several points of view that you were getting all at the same time. And I just feel like I would have really enjoyed this a lot more if it was a first person where like each chapter was a different point of view, or even if it was still third person, but each chapter was a different point of view. I feel like I would have been a lot more connected to the characters. I would have been a lot more emotionally invested, knowing like the inner workings of their minds in each chapter, and we were getting just like more depth from each character, if that makes sense. The romance aspect of this is very, very minimal. Yes, it's a Romeo and Juliet retelling, but like I said, this is mainly focused on the politics, and the only fantasy aspect was this monster contagion disease thing like I was telling you about. So just know going into this, like, it's mainly a historical fiction, honestly, with a slight fantasy element and a slight romance element, and that's not a problem for me. I like those types of books. Like I said, I just wish that the storytelling was a little bit different. I am landing on a 3.5 stars for this book. I'm most likely going to pick up the second one because after the way this one ended, I am kind of curious as to how everything goes down. But I would just say know your genre going into this, and I just wish the storytelling was a little bit different, but it was certainly not a bad book. That is all for my attempting to finish my February TBR video. I finished 3 additional books, which means I finished 6 out of 8 of the books that I chose from my TBR jar, which I feel like is pretty good. I have my March TBR jar video coming out shortly, so definitely keep an eye out for that. But I hope that you enjoyed this video. This is definitely something I'm going to be doing at the end of every month, trying to finish up my TBR. So thank you so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.